so much that you have screamed and argued at God? Could you be going through something right now where you are just so angry at God? But the beautiful thing about God is that He is big enough and willing to let us pound on His chest. But take heart, I have overcome the world. And He wraps His arms around you. But we have to take into account, how do we ask for that to happen? And the simple answer is prayer. John 16:26. In that day you will ask in my name. This is, in that day you will ask in my name. I'm not saying that I will ask the Father on your behalf. No, the Father Himself loves you. If we take it to God, He will try His very best to work it for you. But we have to realize that God is limited. Take, for instance, God is all-knowing. Does God know that there is a monkey standing beside me? Does God know that there is a monkey standing beside me? There is no monkey. God can't know everything if everything isn't truth. You can say God knows all truth, but we have to be able to evaluate how we view God's power. There are limitations. Can God make a square circle? It's not a circle anymore. Up at Callahan's, where I worked, they have tables with leaves that they're square tables, and they have leaves that fold up and make them into circles. So that's my joke. That's how you make a square circle. But no, He can't make a square circle. So He has limitations. The biggest limitation that God has is the power of choice. He has chosen, because of who He is, that He wants us to choose Him and to love Him for ourselves, because we have made that decision. And so He has given us that opportunity, because He doesn't want to control us. He doesn't want automatons. He doesn't want to drug us with a new chemical concoction, love potion. And so He sent His Son to show us. Now, the problem with prayer is, have you ever said a prayer before and had it not be answered? Have you ever prayed for healing or prayed for someone with leukemia in the fourth level of leukemia and had them not survive? Is that God's will? No. There are other powers out there. Look at this quote by C.S. Lewis. I freely admit that real Christianity goes much nearer to dualism than people think. The difference is that Christianity thinks this dark power was indeed created by God and was good when He was created, but that He went wrong. Christianity agrees with dualism that the universe is at war, but it does not think this is a war between independent powers. It thinks this is a civil war, a rebellion, and that we are living in a part of the universe occupied by the rebel. Jesus teaches, and I put down here all those verses because we don't have time to go through them all. Go home, look them up. They're down there with the asterisks. Jesus taught that there are other powers beyond what we can see. He taught that there was a devil. He taught that there were demons and that there were angels. And last night, if you're just coming into this and you're struggling with this, listen to last night's talk. We talked about the historical account of Jesus and why we can believe it's true. Listen to it. It might not be up until Monday morning, but listen to it this week before you come back Thursday. But Jesus taught these things. And let's take a look at Daniel 10 real quick here. Then he said to me, this is the angel of the Lord that came and talked to him, the Lord himself. Do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart on understanding this was a vision that he had, and understanding this vision, and on humbling yourself before God in prayer, it's not said there, your words, hence the prayer, were heard, and I have come in response to your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for how many days? 21 days. What is he saying here? Satan, other powers fighting him. But at the same time, what's going on? God can come into your world. He can work on your heart. He can talk to you. And He can say all the beautiful things. But what if you don't believe Him? What if you don't want to believe Him? You have the power to choose not to listen. It takes two, doesn't it? If you get married, it takes two people, right? You can do everything right while you're dating someone. You can do everything right after you get married. Be perfect. And a marriage can still fail. Why? It takes two. The other person has to choose it as well. It's like one of the doors that requires two sets of keys that are more than like 8 feet apart, the locks. You both have to unlock it and walk through together. And God will work on their hearts. That's what He's doing in here in the kingdom of Persia. It says, but the kingdom of Persia was the prince of the kingdom of Persia, which was the devil, was withstanding me for 21 days. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. So Daniel prays. It takes 21 days for his prayer to be answered. Sometimes God says yes. Sometimes God says no. Sometimes He says, wait, you're not ready. But there's another option. Sometimes He says yes, but the other people are not willing. The other parties are fighting me. But the thing about prayer is that prayer is, we talked last night about Revelation when Jesus comes with the sword, the two-edged sword, double-edged sword, coming out of His mouth, the words. The words of Christ have power. And we see that here in Mark 9:29. The disciples are pitted with a man who's demon-possessed, and they're commanding this demon, in the name of Jesus Christ, come out of him. And what's happening? The demon is laughing at them. It's refusing. And Jesus says, this kind can come out only by prayer. If there is a war going on this earth between God and Satan, the swords that we carry are words. They're prayers lifted up to God, praying for His will to be done, connecting our will with His, saying, please, God, work this through me if you have to. Work it through anyone here, so long as their will matches up with yours. And when that happens, miracles happen. To close tonight, I want to share with you that it is very hard to grasp some of these concepts, that there is a God that looks like Jesus. But in Mark 8, Jesus comes to a blind man. And he spits in the mud, and he puts it on his eyes. And he wipes it away, and he asks him, "Do you see anything?" And the man looked up and said, "I see people, they look like trees walking around." How many of you wear glasses or contacts or some sort of corrective vision? When I was in the 7th grade, I was sitting in the back of class because that was how I did it. I liked my desk in the back. Could lean up against the wall, tilt my chair back because I was a 7th grader. And it came around to where the classroom was supposed to be reading sentences. We were doing, how do you recognize all the different parts and where do you put the commas and punctuation and everything. It was English class. And everyone was reading it out loud and then correcting it. And it came around to my turn and I couldn't do it. Now, how many of you have been to an eye exam? How long does that take? It takes 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much is done, yeah. And while they're doing it, they've got all these lenses that they're shooting in front of each of your eyes and saying, is this one better? Is this one better? Is this one better? Is this one better? 1 or 2, 1 or 2, 3 or 4. And as you're whittling it down to the selections, slowly things become clear. And I remember when I first got my first set of glasses, after going through all of that, and it was about a week later, they had to ship them to us and whatnot. I went to pick them up, and I put them on. I was only like 20/60 vision, so it wasn't that bad. But I remember looking outside and saying, those trees have leaves. They aren't just a green blur anymore. I can see the details on those trees. My eyes are much worse now, but and I'm wearing contacts. Praise God for contacts. And so Jesus has to do it a second time. Things aren't always going to be perfectly clear the first time you hear them or see them. It takes time, and that's okay. And so Jesus, once more, put his hands on the man's eyes, and he could see. Clear as day. Give it time. Stay faithful. Come back. We'll share some more. But how many of you are beginning to actually see a different picture of God? Because when we take Jesus and his teachings and we apply it to the Old Testament, to the New Testament, there are some cases in the New Testament where you need to apply Jesus' view of things. When you do that, you begin to see a radically different character of God. And you begin to see a radically different person of who you are. And you begin to see radically different change in how you view each other, including your enemies. And most importantly, the issues of sin and guilt, through Jesus' eyes, they become solved, not intensified. He didn't come to this world to condemn the world, but that through him, all might be saved. And that's the image of Jesus that I would want to introduce you to, if you don't already know. Our next meeting will be Thursday night, talking about Jesus' ministry specifically. He spent 33 years living and only 3 hours dying. So we want to see what he did while he was alive in more depth, his purpose. So come, don't miss it. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. And if they say, well, I missed the first few nights, tell them, go to this website. And you'll find it. I also put it there on the bottom of the sheet there. at the end of tonight's. It's not on the other nights, but I got it on tonight's. Tell them to go there and listen. We have food for everyone. I went a little bit over. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to do better next week. But we have food for everyone, snacks, times for us to be able to fellowship together. And I do want this to be a little bit of a dialogue. As you noticed, a few people have asked a few questions. That's okay, so long as it doesn't add too... Recognize it does add minutes to the end. But we do have a question box. I haven't received any yet, with some cards up at the front on your way out. If there's anything that I have talked about that you want some clarifying questions about, feel free to put it in there, and I'll try to address it after the next talk. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you all Thursday.